All right, so we're going through the review packet from 5.1 to 5.3. So 5.1, we're really working on simplifying and multiplying algebraic fractions. So the front of this page is all just simplifying, which directly relates to multiplying as well. So a couple things we're looking at, we're going to cancel variables from top to bottom, because when you see one on the top and one on the bottom, you're dividing by itself, x divided by x, y divided by y, which is just 1, so we can simplify it out. We do need to take note of exponents. An x squared means it's actually an x times an x. So only one of those x's will cancel with one x on the bottom. So that means there will be one left over. So if it helps to show them, you can write them out and cross them out, one on the top, one on the bottom. Otherwise, you can basically just subtract. You've got 2 on top, 1 on the bottom, you subtract. And then the remainder, whatever's left over, goes either on the top or the bottom, wherever you started with more. And then we're going to have some whole numbers in front, which we're just going to simplify like they're fractions. That's the basics of it. So for number 1, if we have 10 over 5, that's like 2 over 1. We cancel that down. We also talked about, if you're really not good at simplifying, you can go ahead and use your fraction button. So you hit alpha x, bring up the fraction, put the 10 over 5 in, and just hit enter, and it'll reduce it for you, so it's 2. So we get 2 over 1. Like I just talked about, the x and the x is going to cancel, leaving you an x on top. And this y doesn't have anything to cancel it, so it's going to stay. So really the only thing that's left over on the bottom is a 1. And when that happens, you can just not even worry about it. We don't need the bottom of our fraction. So our final answer here is just the 2, the 1x, and the 1y. Okay, number 2, 36 divided by -4. That divides nicely for a whole number of -9. 3x is on the top, 1 on the bottom. So this 1 cancels one of these. So I still have an x squared on top. I have a y squared on top and a y on the bottom. This y cancels one of these. So I have 1 left over. 26 and 39. Again, you can plug it in the calculator. Otherwise, I know that divides by 13. So I get a 2 and a 3. So I am going to have a bottom here to my fraction. 4 a's on top, 2 on the bottom, so those cancel out, leaving 2 a's on the top, so a squared. 3 b's on top, 1 on the bottom, so 1 cancels on the top and the bottom, leaving me 2 on the top. Number 4. Again, you can plug this in your calculator, but these do divide by 15. So 15 goes into 30 twice and goes into 75 5 times, and I'm just going to bring that negative along. 1c cancels one of these, so there's 2. And now I have more d's on the bottom than I do on the top. So these 4 on the top will cancel 4 on the bottom, leaving me still another 4 on the bottom. Number 5. 7 and 77 can be divided by 7. So I'm going to get a 1 on top and an 11 on the bottom, dividing those by 7. 6 r's on top cancel 6 on the bottom, leaving me r squared. 7 t's cancel 7 t's, leaving me t to the third on the bottom. Number 6, 84 and 16. 16 can be divided by 8, but 8's not going to go evenly into 84. So I'm going to divide them by 4. And that's going to get me 4 on the bottom. Also going to get me 21 on the top. Again, you want to put it in your calculator, you're just going to go ahead and bring up your fraction button by hitting alpha and x, and just put in those numbers that we started with, the 84 over the 16, and just hit enter, and it'll reduce it for you. There's your 21 and your 4. Okay, so if you're really struggling with what number goes into these evenly, you just go ahead and plug it in the calculator. All right, 8 on top, 5 on the bottom, so 5 cancels 5 of these, leaving me 3 on top. 2 q's cancel 2 on the bottom, meaning there's still 5. Okay, these two numbers, if you recognize it, great. If not, plug it in the calculator, but 51 is going to go into both of these. So once on the bottom, twice on the top. So before I go ahead and write that as a fraction, I'm just going to do this because maybe nothing will be left on the bottom. But when you do start to look, there are more m's on the bottom than the top. So we will have some m's left over on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and put the -2 up here. If you want to put the 1 on the bottom, you can, but you don't have to. It's going to be a coefficient to the variables. You don't need a 1. And so these 3 cancel 3 of these, leaving m to the 6th. This n is a 1n, and it cancels 1 of these, leaving me n to the 6th. 2781. Those can be divided by 9, and those actually can be divided by 27. And so if I divide them by 27, I'm going to get a 1 on top, and I'm going to get a 3 on the bottom. And I'm going to leave the 1 not there for now. Now, if we ended up with nothing on top in terms of variables or anything else, you would have to put the 1 up there. But as I look at this, I've got more v's on the top than the bottom, so these bottom 6 will cancel 6 of these. So I'm still going to have 3 v's up top. And because I'm going to have a variable up here, I don't need the 1 in front of it. But again, it's not wrong if you put it there. And w's cancel out, leaving 3 on top. Okay, 16 and 56 can be divided by 8. We get 2 on the top, 7 on the bottom. X's cancel, leaving 1 on top. Y's cancel, leaving 1 on the bottom. 63 and 18 can be divided by 9. So I'm going to get a -7 on top and a 2 on the bottom. A's cancel, leaving 2 on top. B's cancel, leaving 4 on the bottom. 15 and 150 can be divided by 15. So I'm going to get a 1 on top and a 10 on the bottom. 15 times 10 is 150. And my C's, when they cancel, they're going to be leaving some on the bottom. But my D's, when they cancel, 5 and 4 of them cancel, leaving 1 on top. So I don't need any numbers on top. The 1 is in front, whether you write it or not. Number 12. I'm going to divide both of these by 12. So it goes in 4 times, goes in once on the bottom. I'm going to wait and see if I need the 1. 7 F's will cancel, leaving 4 on the top. And 3 G's will cancel, leaving 2 on the bottom. It looks just like that. 13, which fraction is equivalent to this? Multiple choice. So all we have to do is simplify this and then just pick the one that's the right answer. 64 and 16. Those both can be divided by 16. So I'm going to get a 1 on top and I'm going to get a 4 on the bottom. As I look through this, there's no m's on the bottom to cancel anything. So I am going to have an m up top. My n's cancel. 1 cancels 1, leaving 1 on the bottom. P's cancel. 1 cancels 1, leaving 1 on the top. That's letter D. All right. So the width of a family room is 2/3 as long as its length. Let L equal the length of the family room. We're going to write an expression for the area. So think of this as a rectangle. We're going to assume the room is a rectangle. Area, you just multiply the sides of the room together. They said the length is L, and they said the width is 2/3 as long. So it's 2/3 of L. Whatever you plug in for L to get the width, you'd multiply 2/3 times that number, times L. So to write an expression for the area, you multiply the length and the width, the base and the height, whatever you want to characterize them as. So you're going to multiply L times 2/3 L. Base times height, length times width, represented by L for length and 2/3 L for width. And then we're going to go ahead and simplify this. Think of this as a coefficient of 1. When you multiply across here, then you're still going to get 2/3 as the coefficient. And L times L, just like X times X, is X squared. So L times L is L squared. Okay, a box of cereal has a length of X. The width is 1/6 its length, so 1/6 X. And its height is 3 times half its length. So if I take half of x, which would be 1/2 x, the height is 3 times that. So I'm going to times this by 3. Okay, so let's think about what that looks like. So the volume of a box is found by multiplying the length, the width, and the height. Write that expression out. So length is x times the width is 1/6 x times the height, which if I combine this, remember this is 3 over 1. So when I multiply straight across, I'm just going to get a 3 on the top, a 2 on the bottom. So it's going to be 3/2 x. That's good right there. Now, when you write these fractions, the x can go next to it like I did. But if you check the answer key, theirs just looked a little different. You can put the x up top with the coefficient, and if the coefficient up here is a 1, then it's just x over 6. And for 3/2 x, the x can go up top, so it's 3x over 2. These say the same thing. Okay, this says the same thing as this. Okay, either one is fine. So now we're going to multiply and we're going to simplify. So remember, this is a 1. So 1 times anything is just itself. So we're going to do 1 times 1/6 times 3/2. So straight across with these fractions, you're going to get 3 on top and you're going to get 12 on the bottom. That simplifies to 1 over 4 when you divide by 3. And when you do x times x times x, that's x to the 3rd power, which looks like this. And again, we can throw that x up in the numerator if you want. And with a coefficient of a 1, we don't even need it there. So x to the 3rd over 4 is the same thing. So don't be confused by that. All right, we're going to multiply the fractions and simplify if possible. And we talked about the property that says we can simplify early if we see it. So we're going to practice that for sure here. So instead of multiplying straight across, combining everything, and then simplifying, which is fine, I'm going to go ahead and practice simplifying early. Just basically think of it as one big fraction. These are being multiplied, these are being multiplied, and you can cancel stuff right now. So 3 over 9, divide those by 3, and you're going to get 1 and 3. And 8 over 4, divide those by 4, you're going to get 2 and 1. So when I multiply my numbers across, I'm going to get 2 on the top, 3 on the bottom. This x squared is going to get canceled by 1x on the bottom, still leaving me an x up top. These two y's will get canceled by this y on the bottom, still leaving me a y on top. So it's 2xy over 3. 19. 5 and 9 can be reduced by 3. So I'm going to divide by 3. I'm going to get 5, and I'm going to get 3. 12 and 4 can be simplified by 4. So I'm going to get a 1 and a negative 3. Now I can still keep going. These 3's will cancel each other out. This is still a negative up here, though. So the negative is going to go ahead with the 5 up top. And the only thing on the bottom here is 3 a's. There's 2 up top. So 2 are going to cancel, meaning you just have 1 left over on the bottom. And these b's cannot cancel. They're all up top. So b times b is b squared. All right, number 20. 26 and 13 can be divided by 13. So that's a 1 and a 2. Nothing else cancels. So 2's on top, 3's on the bottom. Canceling c's, 3 on the bottom, 5 on the top. That means there's 2 left over on top. Canceling my d's, 2 cancels 2 of these. So there's still 2 left over on the bottom. And I almost forgot about this one. Okay, this is a 1d. So when I put these together, there's actually 3 up top. So when I cancel 3 on the top and the bottom, they're gone on the top, and there's only 1 left over on the bottom. Okay, now we're getting into some bigger numbers. If you want to simplify early, you can. For this one, I'm going to show that you don't have to. So we're just going to go ahead and multiply straight across right here. So 42 times 5 is 210, and of course it's negative. On the bottom, 70 times 6, 420. And you might see that that's going to go right into it. If you double 210, you're going to get 420. But let's say you didn't see that. Go ahead and use your fraction. Put the 210 up top. Put the 420 on the bottom. and it's 1/2. Okay, so a 1 up top, a 2 on the bottom. I'm going to wait for that 1 and see if there's any other things going up there, and we cannot forget to bring that negative along with us. All right. I have 4 F's total on top, 1 here, 3 here, none on the bottom to cancel it, so I am going to have F to the 4th up top. 5 G's on the bottom, cancel 5 G's on the top, so there are still 2 G's on the top. 22, I see some very easy simplifying. You could do 9 and 18. I also see 18 going right into 36. 36 can go into 72, any which way you want. So I'm going to do 18 and 9, dividing by 9, that's 2 and 1. And then 72 and 36, those divide by 36. So that's, again, 2 and 1. So straight across, 4 on top. M's, I have 3 and 5, that's 8. 4 on the bottom, so 4 cancels 4 of those, leaving me still 4. And with my N's, there's 2 here, there's 1 here, for a total of 3, which will cancel 3 on the bottom. But there was 6, that means there's still 3 on the bottom after you cancel. Okay, 23. I noticed the 6 and 24 cancel nicely. So that's 1 and 4. And then maybe I'm looking at these and I don't know that 11 goes into both of these. Okay, it would go into both. You could divide these by 11. But if I didn't recognize that, let's go straight across. You're going to get 121. And 4 times 33. You're going to get 132. And let's go ahead and simplify that. 121 over 132. And you're going to get 11 on top and 12 on the bottom. Dealing with the letters now. 3 R's and 1 R makes 4, and there's none on the bottom, so R to the 4th up top. 7 P's on top, and I have 4 here and 3 here, so 7 on the bottom. So that means my P's will completely cancel. 7 on the top, 7 on the bottom. This is my final answer. 24. If I see the 20 and the 15, I'm going to cancel by 5, so that's 4 and 3, no other numbers. So that's what we're going with right here. 5 V's on top, no V's on the bottom, so it's going to stay up there. No W's on top, so everything on the bottom will stay. There's a total of 5. $25. I know 12 goes into 48, so divide by 12, and that's negative 4 over 1. 18 does go into 54 3 times, so this is a 1 and a 3. So when I multiply straight across here, I'm going to get negative 12 on the top. Count up your D's. I see 8 on the bottom, and I see 7 on top. That means after they cancel, there's 1 on the bottom. I'm going to go alphabetically here. There's 2 E's up top, 6 on the bottom, so when those cancel, that leaves me 4 on the bottom. And 1 F on top, 4 on the bottom, so when those cancel, that leaves me 3. And that completes 5-1. Let's go to 5-2. So now we're going to talk about division, very similar in terms of the skills that we're using here, except we cannot cancel anything until we've written it as multiplication. That's what the property holds true for. So we cannot start canceling. Well, nothing here would cancel. Let's find one just for an example. So number 8, if you see the D on the top and the D on the bottom, we cannot cancel that right now because it says division. We have to flip it to multiplication first. Okay, so before we get to that, 1 through 4, we're going to rewrite these now as whatever operation it asks us to. So we're going to change this, not really change it, we're going to rewrite it as division, so straight across. So this already says 3/4 divided by 2/3. They want us to write that as division, so what they're talking about is just this, 3/4 divided by 2/3. Number 2, they've given us division. They want us to write it as multiplication. To change division to multiplication, you multiply by the reciprocal, so it's still R over S times. Reciprocal is the flipped version of the fraction, U over T. Number 3, we're going to rewrite this division as multiplication, so the first one stays the same. If we change it to multiplication, we have to change this to w over 1. And you don't really need it over 1, and so you could write this as just xy times w. And here, changing division to multiplication, the first one stays the same, times. Now this needs to flip. This is a fraction over 1, so when you flip it, it's 1 over CD. All right, down to the bottom now. Let's go ahead and use this. So we're going to go ahead and rewrite this as multiplication. So this has to flip. And now it's just like that whole page of 5-1 we just did. Cancel everything you can cancel. So 3 and 6 become a 1 and a 2, and 5 and 25 become a 1 and a 5. So 1's on top, 10 on the bottom. And when I look at my variables, there's 2 a's on top and 1 on the bottom, so that 1 will cancel one of these, leaving me just an a on top. Number 6, rewrite it. Three and 9 reduce to 1 and 3. 16 and 20 you can divide by 4. So that's 4 and 5. So I'm going to get 12 on top and 5 on the bottom. And these 3 b's cancel 3 of these. So I still have 3 left over on the bottom. Rewrite as multiplication. Second one is the reciprocal, so flip it over. 49 and 7 can be divided by 7, so you get 1 and 7. So you're left with 7 over 6 for a total of, remember this is c to the first, so a total of 4 c's on the top. Okay, we can cancel here by 10. So 1, and this is 12. And now I can cancel my 12 and my 3 by 3. So this is 1 and 4. 1's on the bottom, 4's on the top. And there's nothing to cancel these d's, so they're just going to stay there. And I already have 1 here as well, so I do need to combine. So it's going to be d to the 4th. Nothing on the bottom. So if I was going to write it as a fraction, it's 1. Or you can just say 4d to the 4th like this. Either way. You want to put it over 1, that's fine. You don't have to. Okay, this one, if it helps, make it a fraction, put it over 1. Times the reciprocal, put the 5 up top. All right, let's see what we can cancel. So let's say you look at 16 and 8 and you were like, I'm sure they can cancel by 2 and 4, by 8. Okay, and if you couldn't figure it out, again, what you should go back to is just plugging it in the calculator. Put the 80 over 16, or multiply the 80 and the 5, get that on top, and put that number over 16, and it will simplify down for you. Okay, so if we did go ahead and divide by, let's say we went by 8. So 8 goes into 80 10 times, and it goes into 16 twice. And now I still have a 2 and a 10, so go farther. Divide those by 2. So this becomes a 1 and a 5. Now you can go straight across. I'm going to get 25 on top. There's no e's to cancel, so the e stayed right there with it. This f cancels one of these f's, so there's just one f on the bottom. All right, rewrite it. All right, so let's start with the numbers. 17 goes into 34 twice. And that's all I'm going to be able to do. So I can't lose this negative. So go across 2 times 2. We're going to get negative 4 on top and a 3 on the bottom. This g cancels one of these, so that's g squared on the bottom. This h cancels one of these, leaving me just h. Flip. 7 and 21 come 1 and 3. So we're going to have 2 on top, 3 on the bottom. These j's are going to cancel, this one and this one, so they're gone, and 2k's on top means it's k squared. That's it. Put this over 1, rewrite it. Flip. 16 and 24 can be divided by 8. It's 3 and 2. 3 and 15 can be divided by 3. That's 1 and 5. So I'm going to get a 1 on top, and I'm going to get 10 on the bottom. I don't need that 1 necessarily if I have a variable, but this m right here is going to cancel with this m. So it is gone. The m's are gone, so I don't have anything up top at that point. So I do need the 1 up there to fill the space. And n to the 5th and n to the 2nd leave me n to the 7th. Rewrite. Flip. So nothing on the bottom. We're just going straight across. 40 times 5 is 200. R squared and r to the 3rd, t to the 3rd, and t to the 1st is t to the 4th. Done. Rewrite. All right, 56 and 8 can be divided by 8. That's 1 and 7. So those are done. I'm going to have a 7 up top. Let's see if I end up with anything on the bottom. Doesn't look like I have any v's to cancel, so I will have a bottom here. V to the 3rd, and v is going to be v to the 4th on the bottom. These 3 w's cancel 3 of these, so I just have 1 left over. Okay, 15. It's multiple choice, but we're just going to go ahead and solve it. It's division. So same process we've been doing. Let's rewrite it as multiplication. And flip it. So looking at the numbers, these both divide by 9. So I get a 3 and a 4. 4 goes into 16, so that's 1 and 4. So it looks like I'm going to have a 1 on top, and I'm going to have a 12 on the bottom. So I'm looking at this one right now. So the x's cancel. That's going to leave me 2 on top. Looking good. And I have 6 y's all together on the top, 2 on the bottom, so it will leave me 4 on the top. And so letter A is the correct answer. Okay, 16, let's fly through this. So let's say you didn't know that 54 and 3 or 54 and 6 work out. So let's say you just ran these straight across. I know I'm going to get 18 on the bottom. So I'm going to have 54 on the top and 18 on the bottom. If I threw that in my calculator in a fraction, 54, 18, boom, I get a 3. So that 3 would go on top. And when I start looking over here, this A cancels one of these, 1 on top. This B cancels the B, so there's nothing left. And this 1C cancels one of these, so there's a C on top. There's nothing left on the bottom, so if you want to put it over 1, you can, or otherwise just leave it as 3AC. Multiplication. flip. So there's 2 x's on top. There's also 2 x's on the bottom. Those are gone. 13 goes into 26 twice. Don't lose that negative. So I have a 2 over 2. Those cancel. So my numbers are gone. I just have a negative, so I do need to carry that negative through. I don't have anything left on the bottom. It's everything just up top, y to the 5th and y to the 4th. It's y to the 9th, so the coefficient is -1. It's negative y to the 9th. Five and 15 cancel. 22 and 33 can be divided by 11. Nothing else. Straight across. 2 on top. 3 times 3, 9 on the bottom. The v's will cancel each other out. 2 w's on top. Multiplication. Flip. Okay, this 2 will cancel this. So this is a 1. Half of this is 34. 34 times 3 is 102. The t's are all on the bottom. 3 here, 1 here. That's 4 total. All right, now it's written a little differently, so it can be a little bit confusing how this looks. So, I mean, really, it's hard to tell which one's the big one, which one's the little one. So to me, this looks like the d is being divided by this fraction. So if it helps, write it like this. I believe that's the d, which I can put as d over 1, divided by e over d squared. So when I rewrite it, it's multiplication. That d squared needs to come up top, and the e goes to the bottom. Nothing's going to cancel, so we're going straight across. This is d to the 3rd over e. All right, to me, this looks like it's this whole top piece as a whole divided by this fraction. So I'm going to rewrite that. It's 3f to the 4th over 1, and that's being divided by, so I'm going to change the multiplication now and flip this fraction. G goes up top, 6f squared on the bottom. So 3 and 6 are 1 and 2. That's what we're going to end up with, is a 2 on the bottom. These 2 f's are going to cancel 2 of these, so there's still 2. And nothing to cancel the g's, it's going to stay up top. All right, it's a fraction divided by a fraction. So I'm going to rewrite it as multiplication and flip. Multiplication. Flip. All right, the negatives, 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom, will cancel. So we have a positive answer. 18 and 24 can be divided by 6. That's 3 and 4. That's what we're going to be left with. 2 h's cancel 2, so I have 1 left on the bottom. 1j cancels 1, so I have 1 left on top. Standard one here. Rewrite. Multiplication. Flip. Okay, I only have 1 negative here, so my final answer will have a negative in it. 7 and 14 become 1 and 2. I can go ahead and simplify the 2 and the 12 if I want, or the 30 and the 12. Let's go with the 2 and the 12 for now. So that's 1 and 6. And then here, 30 and 6 is 1 and 5. So I'm all the way down to just 5 on top, so it's going to be a negative 5. M's, 3 cancels 3, leaving me 4 on top. 4 cancels 4, leaving me 1 on top. Nothing left on the bottom, so I'm just going to leave it like this. You can put it over 1 if you want. Rewrite. All right, 72 over 16. Let's say you look at that and you don't recognize anything. You can throw it right in your calculator. But these are being divided by 8, so that's a 2 and a 9, and that's all we've got. So we're going to end up with a 9 on top and a 2 on the bottom. These q's cancel 2 of these, leaving me 2 q's up top, and these 3 cancel 3 of these, leaving me 2 on the bottom. All right, and this looks like 144 RST is being divided by this fraction. So I'm going to write 144 RST. That's like it's over 1. Change it to multiplication and flip this fraction. T to the third over 24s squared. Let's say you look at 144 and 24, nothing pops in your head right away. It is 12, but let's use the fraction button just for some practice here. So we're going to put the fraction up there and put 144 on top, 24 on the bottom. And we get a nice whole number 6. So we're going to throw that up top. It's like 6 over 1. I don't see any r's to cancel, so that 1 on top is just going to stay. This s cancels one of these, so I am going to have an s on the bottom. And nothing to cancel those t's. I have 1 here, don't lose that. 3 here, so that's t to the 4th. All right, and moving on to 5-3. So being undefined and equal to 0 has to do with the numerator and denominator. You cannot divide by 0. So if you get any number over 0, that is undefined. And then if you get a 0 on top and then you get another number that's not 0 on the bottom, that answer is just 0. So when they ask us for what value of x, what can we plug in for x to make this undefined? We need to create a 0 on the bottom. So we would be plugging in and multiplying by 3. We need to get 0. So the only number you can plug in, multiply by 3, and get 0 is 0. On the top, if this was going to equal 0, we're not worried about the denominator. We're just worried about the numerator. We want to get a 0 on top. So it would be 6 plus, I would need a negative 6 total over here. So what times 2 is going to give me negative 6? That would be negative 3. If you can't reason through that in your head, we're just looking at this, and we need it to equal 0. So write that out. 6 plus 2x. When does it equal 0? Quickly solve that equation, and you're going to get 2x equals negative 6. You're going to divide by 2, and you're going to get x equals negative 3. So if it helps, write it out as a quick little two-step equation. All right, next one. For what value of a is this undefined? Undefined would create a 0 down here. So what number do you plug in for a? So this is 0. That would be a 4. And to make this equal to 0, the top needs to become 0. There's just one number up there, so you would make that into a 0. Number 5, we want to make this expression undefined. So we need a 0 down here. So 3 times something minus 1 gives me 0. So something minus 1 is 0. This needs to be a 1. 3 times what is 1? That's 1/3. Let's say you couldn't reason through that. We need this whole bottom, 3c minus 1. We need it to equal 0 to make this undefined. Solve it out. Add 1. 3c equals 1. Divide by 3. And it's 1/3. 3 times 1/3 is 1. Minus 1 is 0. Okay, for this to equal 0 on the top, or the whole expression equals 0, we have to have 0 on the top. So if I'm multiplying by 5 and getting 0, then c is 0. Okay, number 7, unit cost. Unit cost means how much for 1. So we're always going to put dollars divided by whatever. In this case, it's cans. That will give me dollars per can. So I'm going to do $4.99 divided by 24. Now, we're talking about money here, so we're just going to go 21 cents here. We're going to round it up because of the 7. Okay, money divided by whatever. So $5.99 divided by 4 looks like this. $1.49. The 7 rounds it up. It's $1.50. $7.50 here divided by 48. How much does one granola bar cost? Price per granola bar. Stack them up like that. So 750 divided by 48 comes out like this. 15 cents rounded up, 16. $14 split between 36 rolls. Okay, 14 divided by 36. 38 cents, but the 8 rounds it up. 39 cents. Number 11, still, even though it's an X, it's $12 divided by however many plates. Dollars per plate. So we can't do anything with that. It's 12 over X. Dollars on top, $6.49 divided by Y. Dollars divided by whatever you're talking about. Dollars on top. So we're putting A here on top. That represents the dollars. Divided by 12 markers will give you how much it costs for one marker. Same thing here. Dollars on top represented by B, and you would cut that into 10 pieces and find out how much for one juice box. 15. How many newspapers does he deliver per minute? 300 in 90 minutes. So you put newspapers over minutes. That's newspapers per minute. So 300 over 90. 300 divided by 90. You get 3.3 repeated. So for this question, we can say about 3. But that's not a perfect number, 3. It's 3.3 repeated. So it's actually 3 1/3. And so we're going to need to use that number on the next one. It says, how many does he deliver per hour? Instead of trying to manipulate anything in here, just think about that. If he has 3 1/3 per minute, every minute, 3 1/3, 3 1/3, 3 1/3, even though obviously he's not giving a third of a newspaper to somebody. This is the average, 3 1/3, 3 1/3 for 60 minutes, because that's an hour. So you're doing the 3 1/3 times 60. I would just leave this in my calculator. It's already there. 3.3 repeated is 3 1/3. Hit times 60. And it's a nice, even 200 newspapers. So I'm not taking this 3 that I rounded off and timesing by 60, because that would be 180. That third, because this is on average, that third of a newspaper every minute adds up. And instead of 180, it's actually all the way up to 200. Okay, on the back, we want miles per hour. So it's already in that format. We can just set it up and divide. So miles per hour. Miles per hour. You're going to do 480 divided by 48. That's 10 miles per hour. So if you think about it, this is how many miles you go in an hour. You're going to split this into 60 pieces to find out per minute. So it's 10 divided by 60. And you get that nasty number there. So we're taking 10 and dividing by 60. Let's leave it a fraction. Divide those by 10. And it's 1/6 of a mile per minute. The other way you could do this is turn 48 hours into minutes. So you would do 48 times 60 and then set it up with the 480 over that number, and it will also get you this. Okay, calculate the rate. Price per ticket. So you're going to do $42.50 divided by 5. So it's $8.50 per ticket. This much for her car over a period of 60 months. So we want to know how much per month. Dollars per month. Go ahead and divide that. Nice even 381. 10 inches of snow in 12 hours. We want inches per hour. So 10 over 12. Not going to give you a perfect number, but you can simplify that. So 5/6 of an inch per hour. The word "the" is the most common used word in the English language. At what rate is it being used in this quote? So it shows up twice. There's a total of 7 words, so the rate is 2 out of 7. 2 out of 7. All right, in 2005, the population is this. It has this many miles of land. If this was distributed evenly, how many people would live in each square mile? So people per square mile. So you're putting the people over the miles. This gives you the people per mile. Okay, and it's about 231, 232. '23, comparing these, printer A, printer B, which one's faster? So we want to know how many pages per minute. So for the first one, it's 450 divided by 15, pages divided by minutes. Comes out to 30 pages a minute, and the other one is 875 over 25 minutes, divide 35. So which one's faster? That would be printer B, because it gets 35 every minute. In 2003, they believe that by 2008, over 90 million additional laptops and PDAs will have wireless capabilities to access the internet. What is the yearly rate of increase? So we're going up 5 years, and we're going to add 90 million of these laptops and PDAs. So 90 million over 5 years. We want to know how many per year. When you divide that, it's 18 million. You can write it out with the zeros if you want. Per year. Okay, we're going to compare price here. So 320 divided by 42. Remember, the money always goes on top. So $3.20 for 42 ounces gets you this. So I'm going to go ahead and write that number completely. Well, not completely, but I'm going to go a couple decimal places so I can compare this price with the other, just in case it's really close. The other one is $1.25 for 18 ounces. When I divide that, you can see they were kind of close, but this one is 0.06 and then a bunch of stuff. So I can just stop right there. 0.06 is going to be cheaper. So that is the 18 ounce oatmeal. All right, and the last one. A 1 ounce serving of toasted chips has 130 calories, of which 40 are from fat. A 1 ounce serving of potato chips has 150 calories, of which 90 calories are from fat. Which chips have a lower rate of fat in relationship to the total number of calories? So we're comparing the fat to the calories. So we have 40 out of 130, and we have 90 out of 150. We want to know which has a higher rate here, and I think you can kind of just see it. But if we do 40 divided by 130, that's 0.3. That's also kind of like 30%. And 90 divided by 150 equals 0.6, so 60%. Okay, so you can clearly see the toasted chips have a lower rate. They want to know lower rate, not higher rate, lower rate. So that's the toasted chips.